I'll take a contrary view, I think, to most of my colleagues here. And just to put this in context, we have a boundary review report in Athlone as well. And we have had a very strong community campaign, very much opposed to the proposed land grab of part of County Roscommon and to incorporate it into the province of Leinster and into County Westmeath. And the community was very motivated in relation to this. But the difficulty is that the Boundary Commission report that was completed set a ticking bomb in relation to the recommendation, while it didn't recommend that County Roscommon, part of County Roscommon, should be amalgamated into County Westmeath. It did lay a condition on that if cooperation across the River Shannon and the county boundary was not completed within a 4-year period, then the amalgamation of Monksland and County Roscommon into County Westmeath would happen automatically. And I cannot accept that. And I need to flag to colleagues here that within the next 23 months that will come into force because of the way this report was completed. And the amendments that were brought in by the Minister at committee stage and are now being proposed to be deleted were brought in as a replacement for that ticking time bomb. Now, we also have a local authority election to take place within the next 23 months. So it is going to be very difficult to see progress in relation to this. And while there has always been a willingness from the local authority members in the Athlone area to try and see a coordinated approach across the River Shannon, that hasn't always been the case across both local authorities. You know, so someone on, for argument's sake, the Mayo county boundary has equal influence in relation to the development of Athlone as someone on the Cavan county boundary. And while the councillors locally were prepared to cooperate and work together, that wasn't always the case. And the objective behind this Urban Area Committee was to ensure that there was a structure put to that cooperation, that it actually replaced the recommendation that is on page 49 of the Boundary Commission report, which has caused so much concern locally in Athlone. And if this report remains in place by the deletion of these particular sections, then I think that the cooperation that is being built up will be undermined, that we won't see the progress that needs to be made. And we all agree in relation to, or many of us here agree in relation to the objective that's set out in Project Ireland 2040, to see Athlone develop as a new emerging city, to actually provide a counterbalance to some of the other growth areas across the country, and to give the heartlands region of the country an opportunity to bring employment into the middle of the country where it hasn't been to date. But Athlone cannot develop without cooperation. It cannot develop without cooperation across the county boundary, across the regional structures that are currently there. And it does require a statutory footing to ensure that that cooperation happens in reality. Now, people would say, well, look, cooperation can happen anyway. Well, we have seen in the past where it wasn't on a statutory basis that one of those committees in the past ended up breaking up in disarray. And while there is cooperation there at the moment, it is on the basis that there was going to be a statutory footing put in place in terms of this. So my question is, Minister, and I know that, look, I'm a lone voice in relation to it here. I know that, you know, there have been discussions ongoing. The key political parties are proposing that this will be put forward in a separate piece of legislation. But what happens to the recommendations on page 49 of the Athlone Boundary Report now? Because I was given assurances that section 46 and section 47 of this legislation superseded the recommendation in that report. But if these sections are now being removed from this piece of legislation, what is the status of those recommendations? Are we now back to the situation where a gun is being put to the heads of the councillors and officials in Roscommon County Council cooperate or we'll take Monksland away anyway. And that should not be the case. And I think the one thing that this particular piece of legislation provides is equality of treatment in relation to cooperation across boundaries. And I think if there is that issue of equality recognised in law, I think you can have a lot of progress in relation to engagement. But that equality has never been there to date. It always has been one bigger local authority looking over the ditch at the other local authority. And the solution by your own officials and by the previous government and the previous minister, Alan Kelly, was let's move the fence a little bit out and let's take in part of County Roscommon into County Westmeath. That's been the simple solution up to now. I'm vehemently opposed to that. So are the people that I represent in County Roscommon. So are the tens of thousands of people that signed that petition and got the support of every single political party in this House at the time. So how stands that now? How stands the position of the people that signed those petitions, that were given the commitments that they would not be shoehorned into County Westmeath because of a lack of equality of treatment in relation to engagement? This legislation and these amendments and these particular sections were to provide that specific protection. They were to ensure that the town of Athlone develops in a coordinated manner, both in County Westmeath and County Roscommon, not to benefit either local authority or the local community, but to benefit the region as a whole, to attract people into the greater Heartlands region, to bring investment into that region, and to, at long last, provide a counterbalance to the investment that historically has only taken place on the edges of our island and of our country. So, Minister, I'd ask you to clarify that and clarify it for colleagues here in the House.